Hello, Philly fans, and everybody in this chat. We know there's going to be a lot of Philadelphia fans after this one. Ryker and I are reacting to the Toronto Raptors 104-101 defeat at the hands of Joel Embiid, at the hands of the Philadelphia 76ers, and we're going to break down this game, and we are going to give credit to Philadelphia throughout this podcast, but don't get it misinterpreted. Don't get it misguided. We still 4 games to be played in this series because the Raptors are winning every single out. They're winning out this playoff series. So for all the credit that we're giving the Sixers in this game and in this series so far, don't get it twisted. We still have the Raps going on, but you got to hand it to Joel Embiid tonight, who fought through the F and B chants, who fought through, not having a pampered whistle. Came out, played a very solid performance in this one. The Raptors played some great defense, made some great adjustments, but the Sixers just outplayed us tonight. That's the only real way to put it.
Boy, I was ready to come out. First 2 games in the comment section, we had all Philly fans, and they're running their mouths saying, how do you expect? You guys are delusional. How do you expect that a team composed of 6'8" bigs are ever going to stop the physical prowess of Joel Embiid? Go back, look at the comment section. That's it. It's littered with those from Philly fans. I was ready to rebuke tonight and say, look what happens when the refs call an even game and when there's not touch fouls and we actually draw charges, run our defensive sets perfectly. But like you said, down the stretch in the 4th in overtime, there was no cheese. There was parity on the whistle. Both teams were getting it, going back and forth, and then a couple big shots. You got to give it up to Philadelphia, Ben. But that's a fact. This is another fact, is that you said this before the podcast. I'll say it now. We both agree. If you're going to come back from 0-3 against the team, this would be the team you're coming back from, Ben. We have the recipe now. That was a good game. We figured out how to play. We get a little bit more energy next one, a little bit more optimism that we can win these games. And who knows? It's still a series.
Yeah, without a doubt. We got a super chat coming in from Champion Gold Gaming saying, we welcome all the Pascal slander tonight. Champion Gold Gaming, this is another thing Ryker and I discussed at the beginning of the podcast. We need the Raptors to win out, or at least Pascal to have a good game 4, game 5, whatever games are going to be played, because we can't take another summer of defending this man, because we're going to do it. We love this guy, whether he's a number 1, number 2 option. He deserves that contract. He deserves to be on this team. But y'all got to stop with the hate on Pascal. You can criticize his game, but let's not trade him to the Warriors for a bunch of their scrubs or anything like that. But folks, you guys already know what's going to happen, right? The betting lines, they're all going to go down on the Toronto Raptors following this game. They might be saying the trades are going to happen with Pascal Siakam, but you guys know what you're going to have to do. You got to put all the money on the Toronto Raptors doing something that's never been done in NBA history, in human history. Come back from a 0-3 deficit in the NBA playoffs. And if you want the best odds, right? Because you're going to want to really make it as much money as possible when you're betting on something so crazy. You guys want to use the Bet Stamp app because they're the place to really find the best odds. They're like Trivago for bet making, right? You go through all of the list, all the bookies, all the places, right? And you find the best odds for the bet that you want to place, right? Then you cash out, and then they got a bunch of promos going on in Canada right now. So if you sign up using promo code Raptors and you sign up for the sportsbook, you'll get, what did we get when we had it right, like $400 when we signed up for all these books. So that's the matching credits and stuff. So definitely check out the BetStamp app in the description. It'll be in the pinned comment as well. And get those odds on the Toronto Raptors coming back from that 0-3 deficit, or potentially something less risky in other series, Ryker.
That's it, Ben. You go back to Philadelphia fans. Why is this series important to them? Why do they feel the need to gloat in our comment section, Ben? Because it's been a tumultuous season for them. They had to deal with the Ben Simmons drama. I'm sure they're ready to wash their hair of that. They get a James Harden who really isn't as much of an impact player as you'd necessarily expect. They're still butthurt from the Kawhi Leonard shot and us making the crying face a meme. And then they've just suffered through years and years of trust the process. So they feel it's overdue, Ben. But I still don't have any empathy for them or sympathy for them, because if the Raptors make a big comeback in the next game, I believe it's on, when is it? Sunday? Saturday?
Saturday. Yep. Saturday at 2.
If they win the next game on Saturday, we're going to come out with a lot of confidence going into game 5, Ben. And that's because guys like Precious, who people are going to hate on him blowing a free throw down the stretch, had a good game tonight on both ends, played pretty good defense, whether it was Embiid or Harden. Ben, what are your thoughts on Precious Achiuwa specifically?
Riker, half hour ago, I was ready to be pumping that propaganda left, right, and center, because he was genuinely, obviously this was a bit of a meme over the course of the season, especially at the start, and then it ended up getting spoken to existence when, I guess this wasn't, because we were saying the next Bam, or the next Giannis, better than Bam, but he's quietly became Steph Curry, at least from behind the three-point line over the course of the year, and tonight, just an electrifying performance from him, with exception maybe Gary Trent Jr., who we got to talk about in this game as well, still dealing with whatever illness he's got going on. But Precious, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 9 of 11 from the field. And in my opinion, I know Embiid had a remarkable performance, and some of that was against Precious, right? His 12 of 20 from the field. But I thought he played very strong defense against Embiid, as good as you can get. Unfortunately, Embiid's hitting turnaround jump shots and stuff. There's not much you can do about it. But all around, with exception of the last minute of regulation and minute of overtime, this is almost a near perfect performance for Precious Achiuwa. And for a guy, obviously big men take time to develop, right? For a guy that's this young, was so raw. The amount of growth we've seen of Precious Achiuwa over the course of the season, it's got to be, people, I think you and I both knew Precious was going to miss both of those free throws, given his past games and stuff. The confidence, even though he was having the best game of his life, you got to hand it to Precious, because, you and I love the guy, but he's going to be so good for this team.
So good for this team, and he's going to become so much better in the offseason when he practices those free throws, because you're right. You needed to split them. Obviously, if you split them and the exact same final possession happened for the Philadelphia 76ers, the Raptors would have won this game. The other thing, we both knew in overtime, if it was going to be close like that, we're probably going to have a big shot hit on us. That's exactly what happened as well. But what was interesting is we didn't lose to Joel Embiid down in the low post, right? He wasn't unstoppable. He wasn't, get down there and all we can do is foul and hope he misses a free throw. He won the game on a couple of really wild fadeaway threes, heavily contested threes. That was most of his shots down the stretch, and that's because Precious was keeping him out around the perimeter, making him have tough shots. He just hit some crazy ones on this one. So that was a fantastic performance. The other two guys that played really well is Gary, who you mentioned, good defense as well, and OG, who had some wild threes himself.
Yeah, the Starboy was absolutely remarkable, but we'll talk about Starboy. We'll talk about Gary because we have a super chat that is coming from Carter Fay, using his channel membership re-upped for 3 months. Shout out Carter Fay, saying, how we feeling about the 76 coach, obviously alluding to Doc Rivers, crossing that line, running out into the Raptors court to call that timeout. I know I was watching with my fam. They were questioning whether that's legal. Is Doc Rivers allowed to run in front of Drake and do all that chaoticness? And we should discuss the coaching battle in this, but we've seen Nick Nurse, especially in that 2019 run, probably do that every single game, so we can't trash on Doc Rivers for doing that tonight, and I think you'd agree with that one. But what'd you see from the coaching battle between Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers tonight? Because that's something that you and I thought we had a big favor in, but Doc Rivers is coaching his butt off this series.
Coached his butt off, right? And what was the easy thing that any of the keyboard warriors or couch coaches like myself would have picked up in this one down the stretch, Ben? I'll just say it. It was get the ball out of Pascal and Fred's hands, who were really cold in this game, had terrible performances, the both of them, and put it into Gary or OGs, who were a lot steadier, who were creating shots in and outside of the perimeter. That would have just been kind of an easy offensive switch to make, but it didn't seem to happen, right? And I don't know if Nick Nurse just had trust that eventually it would happen down the stretch, or, maybe he was calling out, but Pascal Siakam refused. I don't know. But to me, ball's got to be in somebody else's hand who was actually shooting well for the whole game.
Yep. And we got another super chat coming in from C-Squared24 saying, no tech for leaving the coach's box, BTW. Amy Audibert, fire? Well, I think you and I both agree. It's not a technical. When the crowd's too loud, if you're trying to call a timeout, you got to get the ref's attention somehow. But I get the technicalities. But honestly, I'd be a little bit cheesed if we won on that route. I wouldn't be because the refs in the first two games, but it is what it is, right? That's something that's going to happen. Did Amy Audibert do something before I sound off on the coaching? I don't know. Just throw in the flame emojis. Shout out to Amy. But, you brought up a lot of good points there. You talked about the offensive end a bunch. I thought defensively, Nick Nurse should have schemed a little bit more because Nick Nurse did make some great adjustments. Switching from a 2-3 zone after Doc Rivers ended up doing it because the Raptors were up by 17 points in the first half, and then the Sixers switched to that zone and completely slowed down the game. In the first two games, they love to play that slow, lethargic pace that almost melts you to sleep, right? Puts you to sleep going up against it. And the zone really did that for the Toronto Raptors. We've seen us struggle against zones the entire year. The threes weren't on fire tonight for us, so it made sense. But Nick Nurse came back and ran the same sort of thing. But immediately, Doc Rivers throws in Niang, and Niang ends up, I think he hit 2 threes on that zone, which, threw in Niang and Maxey. I'm not sure Niang's percentages, but Maxey's a 43% three-point shooter. He was just making plays, making adjustments right away. That immediately worked. And, down the stretch of the game, threw in DeAndre Jordan to stifle the pass. We kept in Fred VanVleet down in the paint. And the biggest thing that I noticed throughout this entire game, throughout the entire performance, what are we doing to have Fred VanVleet on Maxey? He is Fred is a phenomenal defender, right? People are voting him for all defense, but it's usually through his size and picking pockets and stuff. And, he's a strong point guard. He's better at guarding, wings rather than the super elite quick guards, but Maxey just has the step on him and he has the size. So the floaters that he was hitting, the drives, the jump shots, it was a bucket, automatic bucket when we had Maxey going up against Fred. And we have a guy in Gary Trent Jr. that is another elite defender that matches up so much better against Maxey. When Gary Trent Jr. was switched onto Maxey, he wasn't driving, he was passing off, being a bit passive. But when we had Fred there, he was saying barbecue chicken, right? And I know I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, Riker, but I watched back the NBA Finals and saw Fred VanVleet back then, obviously, just hound Steph Curry. Just bully looked like Matthew Dellavedova-esque performance, when he was all on that coffee stuff and did that. But that's not the same Fred VanVleet. He was a lot smaller back then. Fred VanVleet's sort of morphed more into a Kyle Lowry. If you look at the differences in just sort of the physiques, I'm not saying he's out of shape or anything, but he's got a lot more muscle mass, a lot more size now. He's just not as quick as these other guards like Tyrese Maxey and them. He should have switched off onto Harris or something and then threw Gary Trent Jr. onto Maxey. That's my take there.
Yeah, and even if they did, maybe that was the matchup they were looking to attack tonight because Tobias Harris was aggressive in the first half. He was scoring, right? If Fred was on him, then maybe that's the guy that they were looking to put the ball in his hands, right? I think you make a good point that Doc Rivers definitely is coaching smart. And not that Nick Nurse isn't, but there's, again, as the kind of couch coach, I'd still think that there are some easy plays or things that I'd manipulate if I was maybe somebody that had some decision-making power there on the bench for the Toronto Raptors. But we have some guys to talk about still. Let's maybe swing to the segments first, just so we don't scare people away. You know the good stuff is coming. We can jump back into convo after.
For sure. I was waiting, just before we swing into the segments, I was waiting for you to bring up with the Nick Nurse comments, getting the old iPad out and trying to figure out that zone offense. That's what
break the zone defense. I don't know. Did they do a horrible job? Was it that they were playing bad offense against it, or they just couldn't hit their shots? Yeah,
it was more the shots tonight. Because there was points this season where we just, I guess that's more like Delano Banton and those guys not being able to execute. But tonight we were getting the ball in the middle of the zone a little bit. But we'll leave the Fred and Pascal talk for later. Because the chat wants it now. But let's stay positive. Let's keep the positivity rolling until we swing it into those segments. Tonight, the spicy P-lay of the day. I don't know who else you can give it to than Precious Achiuwa. Just a couple of nasty dunks. A couple of just plays that really show the potential of this man. I saw on Reddit the comparisons to Giannis once again. Not just from us, obviously. I think some people are calling us the Raptors cheerleaders in this chat tonight. We'll embrace that. We'll embrace that. It's not a if you want some Raptors more angry reactions, go peep Josh's live watch along in the end of that one. So that's that's where you get the dichotomy of Raptors Digest content. But those dunks from Precious were super nice. Do you have anything else? That block on Paul Reed, Precious had too. Highlight reel factory tonight. What else did you see from the guys tonight?
Yeah, Gary Trent Jr. had a two-hand block on Tobias Harris, I believe.
Yeah.
Lots of good plays, right? If the Raptors had to win this one, we would have had a real feast of different things to pick out from this game because it was pretty fun. It was back and forth. Obviously tied after 3. Wait, was it tied after 3? But then obviously tied after regulation and then real close down the stretch. So fun game. Can't feel too bad about it except for the fact that now we have to go where no team has ever gone before.
It's happening. It's happening, folks. I'm going on my rant in the final alarm for that as well. But yeah, let's
oh geez.
Not all plays can be the spicy play of the day, and some just make you say, oh geez. And there's a couple tonight. Get the big one out of the way first. The ghost of Kawhi Leonard. The ghost of Jordan Lloyd. They're looking up. The Joel Embiid kind of looking over. That shot went up. And as soon as overtime hit, Riker, as soon as it hit, I said, there's no way the basketball gods are not... I thought the Raptors would win, but I said, there's no way the basketball guards aren't giving the Philadelphia 76ers at least one insane three-pointer. And unfortunately, it ended up being a game-winning three-pointer, but... yeah. You got to give credit to Joel Embiid silencing the crowd and doing that.
Golden Kazoo goes to Ben Rogers for giving too much credit to Joel Embiid in this podcast. You were appreciative or you were celebratory about him at the beginning, not at the end too, sir. You only give one.
This isn't the end, sir.
Podcast.
I'm going on some rants in the final alarm, but we got a super chat too from Omid saying, if we win another chip, Scotty must become Kawhi. Scotty's gonna be better than Kawhi, Omid. Don't stress that. We'll be good. Look at this team. We're gonna be nice. We're all like 20 years old. We were supposed to be tanking this season, so now we're out here almost picking off the MVP. So love to see it, or second MVP, whatever you want to call it. And got a big super chat coming in from John Lang. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Saying OG possesses talent that can be displayed because Pascal. That can't be displayed because Pascal keeps isolating and dribbling the ball. OG hit a 1-foot step back over 2 defenders and beat the shot clock in overtime, and we never gave him the ball after that. John, that's actually a tremendous point. Should have been brought up in the spicy play of the day as well. OG hit some incredible shots at the end of this one, and if he didn't miss that second free throw at the end, I guess it wouldn't have mattered because of Embiid's whatever. But I was gonna come out with a rant and talk about how OG is the clutchest player in Raptors history and all that sort of stuff. I had a bunch of content ready to throw out on this podcast, but Joel Embiid ripped it all from me. But do you agree with that Pascal is holding back OG? I guess that segues to
no, not that Pascal's holding back OG, but I already made my point in this podcast that if I were Nick Nurse, I would have said, Fred and Siakam, you haven't got it done this game. Gary Trent Jr. and OG, they're more than competent enough to create a shot, dribble the ball. It should be in their hands, but didn't happen. That's all right.
Yeah. And even though we're the cheerleaders, Riker, sometimes you just got to blow a golden kazoo. And tonight, the infamous, the one, the only Paul Pierce Golden Kazoo Award tonight. There's a few guys blowing a golden kazoo in this one, and even though we are saying this first, before any criticism comes out of our mouths, we are not going to be, even if we get not completely destroyed in Game 4, we're not going to be on this rant and dealing with any of this trade Pascal for Andrew Wiggins nonsense this entire offseason. So get out of here with that. But Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam were... and they've not been horrible this series. Like, they put up some solid stats. It's more so been external factors and injuries and stuff. Gary Trent Jr. not being healthy that have made them bad in the first 2 games, or made the Raptors bad. But 12 points, 6 of 16 from the field, 0 of 2 from the 3-point line for Pascal. 12 points, 3 of 13 from the field, and 2 of 10 from behind the 3-point line for Fred VanVleet. 9 assists. Gotta throw out the entire stats, but... that's bad.
It's pretty bad. And Is there anything that I can throw out to justify their performance? Not really. Hey,
no.
there wasn't sweltering defense. There was normal amount of defense, and they didn't hit any of their shots. So next, move on. We know they played bad. We don't want to hear the Siakam slander.
There's not going to be any trashing on Pascal or anything like that tonight, but is this the test? Because I know Josh was completely off the fence, and he's completely off. He jumped back on at the end of the season, but he was a bona fide Siakam hater at the start of the season. You weren't a Siakam hater by any means, but you said, okay, these playoffs.
I was a
Siakam
really indifferent. Indifferent.
Does this affect your opinion on Pascal, like this performance specifically tonight?
No, it can't. Can't. Come on. He finished the regular season, almost averaging a triple-double. He brought the Raptors from struggling to get that 9-10 seed up to 5th or wherever we landed, right? And like you said, he had a pretty good second game. Second game, we thought he was maybe a little bit, like you said, passive or complacent, but this game was just bad. You're allowed to have bad games every now and then.
Like, people are saying Siakam's trash. Siakam sucks. Like, he's been good this series. He's been remarkable at the entire end of the year. I think the number one option thing, like, if you're considering a number one option as a guy that can get you an easy shot, Siakam's not that guy. Nothing that comes from Siakam is easy. But I think he's a capable guy of, taking the lead role night in, night, in the regular season, just being able to win you games as a top guy. Like, he's capable of doing all that. But we need a player that, like we saw Joel Embiid tonight against phenomenal defense of the Toronto Raptors, right? Our defense was, especially when we were in foul trouble and stuff, was horrific game 1 and 2. It is what it is. We let the Sixers get whatever they want. Tonight, played great defense against Philadelphia. Joel Embiid was still able to get, 15 points where he made it look easy. Siakam's incapable of that. Fred VanVleet's incapable of that. It's just how it is.
Yeah, that's true, because even a mid-range jumper by either of those two,
it's not making me feel. Yeah.
And it's weird because I was watching a bit of the Boston-Brooklyn game, which, by the way, my take is aging better than your take so far in that series.
That was just a passion thing. I said the Celtics was a.
He's on the run, Kevin Durant. They throw a lead pass, but it lags behind. So he catches the ball well out of position, still manages to kind of in stride, put it on the ground. 2 defenders on him. He pulls up, kind of double clutch. Ball didn't hit the rim. You had no doubt that it wasn't going to be a make, right?
Yep.
And when he makes it, you're like, okay, that's an easy shot. Even though the actual sequence of events was catching a ball way out of stride, still putting it down, pull-up jumper over 2 guys and having to double clutch. But the way it goes in, you're like, defense shouldn't have let him get that position. There's no spot on the court that, you're right, that Siakam or Fred VanVleet, you just throw up your hands if you're the cheering for the defense that you're like, yeah, they're going to hit that shot 10 times out of 10, which does kind of suck, but whatever.
The encouraging thing is, I think there's potential with that from Scotty Barnes. Like, we've seen Scotty, whether it's against wing defenders, especially smaller guards, but even like Sabonis and other centers around the league, Scotty Barnes can get himself an easy look. Like, he can just post his way and then use those extremely long arms to finish around the rim. There's potential there from Scotty Barnes. And maybe, Siakam's won a championship. He's won a championship. He has a ring on his finger, being a complimentary star. People in this chat saying he's trash and he's this and he's that. Like, this guy was the second best scorer. Lowry was our second best player, but he was our second best scorer on a championship roster. Like, chill with the hate,
Milwaukee, folks. Beat this Philadelphia, arguably a better Philadelphia 76ers team, right? There's something about Siakam that it's probably positional, the reason that he got his big contract. Because if he was 6'6" or 6'7", true small forward with his exact same game style, he'd have 0 bag because he couldn't do what he does in the post. There wouldn't be a single defender in the league that would struggle to guard him, right? He gets the benefit that a lot of teams, you have to put your power forward or your center on him, and he can dribble enough. He's quick enough, right? He's not he's as tall as Brandon Ingram, Kevin Durant, those guys, right? But he has a much stronger build than them.
Yeah.
So he does have to match up usually against power forward centers. If he was a true small forward, there'd be no argument that he's overpaid. But what he can do at his position, even if it's not the same as what Jason Tatum can do, it still is special. And that's the reason that he's worth the money that you pay for him. But I guess the thing that we're looking for him to do is not what he does.
Yeah, we gotta hope Scotty Barnes becomes that or figure something out. But got a super chat coming in from John Lang. Again, I apologize if I'm messing up the last name. They're coming in clutch with the super chats during Ryker and I's time of a therapy session with the chat. Not as many Sixers fans as I thought would be in here. Maybe they got sick of us praising Raptors fans. But I bet Bubble Siakam could put up a better performance than this. That's how bad he played today. Like, he was not good today. Like, we're not coming out here saying that this guy is elite tonight or Fred was great tonight, but I guess we've harped on Siakam enough, or like a bunch. And before we swing it we got another super chat too. The chat's going like very fast right now. So if I've missed any tonight, call me out. But Pascal Siakam equals Waxcal Subricum. John, we like them.
Try again.
Waxcal Subricum is we appreciate the memes. We appreciate the encouragements. We appreciate the super chats. But we talked about Pascal and Pascal's Waxal Siakam and Blue Diamond Gem coming in with another super chat saying Fred is a poor man's Kenrich Williams. Trade now. Folks, the only way
that's not a Raptors fan.
The only way we're reading hate is if it's for a super chat. But I think we've talked about Pascal a bunch. Fred VanVleet is a guy that should be discussed more as well before we get into the final arm record.
What would you do if Fred VanVleet came with a pair of sports goggles on for next game? Kenrich Williams.
Who is Kenrich Williams?
Isn't that the white guy who played on the Bulls and he wore the glasses?
That's Kirk Heinrich. That's who I was picturing too.
Henrik Williams. He's on the OKC Thunder. He has the Texas haircut where it's like normal fade, but then the back it's just a lump of the afro. Like on the bottom, it's like a mullet. It's like an afro mullet. You know that guy?
Yeah, I know that guy. Would you agree? Would you agree with that?
Well, you said we need to talk about Fred.
We need to talk.
Thing is, to me, a bad game looks so similar to a good game for Fred nowadays. Like he closed the season like shooting probably 25% from three. He just took 15 threes a game, so he was averaging 20 plus points. Right. So to me, a game where he put up only 12. Just from the eye test, if you told me he put up 20, I wouldn't have questioned it because it really is a chore for him to get his points, and his consistency from the perimeter has been dropping. And my only defense of him last couple months has been, well, you still want him with the ball in his hands down the stretch. He's the best ball handler, right? He can run the pick and roll pretty well, and for those reasons, I'm not trying to hate on him, but a game like this is tough.
Yeah, and I criticize Fred VanVleet's defense and his just from the eye test. Danny, he brought it up to me and I rewatched the finals. Like Fred VanVleet was a smaller guy, the defense and stuff, but people in the chat are bringing up Fred VanVleet's dealing with that leg injury that kept him out for a large stretch of the end of the season, and he was not good to end off this season. He wasn't looking like the Fred VanVleet that started this year just because he wasn't as mobile and stuff. And maybe has to do with him getting burnt by Tyrese Maxey. So I want to preface my criticisms there, even though they're legitimate. And if you're out there on the court, you got to be able to play. But I don't even want to ask this, but who do you think is more likely to be traded? Just to appease the people in the chat, right? Just to appease the people in the chat. Who do you think is more likely to be traded this offseason?
I don't know. I don't want to go down that road, Ben. I don't want to go down that road.
We're coming back in 7, so it doesn't even matter. But Bueno Kitty saying, I believed you, Ben. Raps in 6. free throw fail tonight. Bueno, it would have been 6, but unfortunately, we got to make it 7. We got to make it more dramatic. Nick Nurse knows. He knows exactly. We needed a game that proved that we can win, right? We needed 2 blowout losses at the start of the series to make everyone write us off. We needed 1 win or 1 loss in overtime that proved to the Raptors, made sure we didn't get discouraged or anything like that. And then we just absolutely trailblazed the Sixers going forward in this series. So that's the plan. That's what we're rocking out with going forward. But Ryker, you want to get a little alarming going?
Yes, sir.
Woo 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 woo.
Wee wee
Beep, 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 beep.
wee
Woo 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 woo.
beep 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 beep.
That's right. The final alarm has sounded, folks, and I know we've been reacting to chat this entire pod, but we want to really hear what you guys have to say about this right now. And Blue Diamond Gem saying Barnes will be the best player on the squad, and I think we all believe that. Maybe OG. I still got a hope for OG because OG was just absolutely a beast tonight. But William Chan saying we took Malachi over Desmond Bane. I refuse to accept our scouting dropped the ball so bad. Hope he gets more run next year. Malachi Flynn got some minutes tonight. I thought his defense was fine. It looked like the Sixers thought they had sort of a whoever offense sort of ordeal going on Malachi, and he held his own against Harden and Maxey and those guys. Offensively, looks like he was just shell-shocked out there. But you see any positives from Malachi?
I'm just reading through a list. I was curious if there was any teams to ever return from a 0-3 or 3-0 deficit. In the NBA, of course, never. In the NHL, 4. Among those, Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay.
So Toronto has a history of coming back among the very limited teams across all professional sporting leagues that have come back after trailing a 3-0 deficit. Toronto as the city has hosted one of those teams, Ben, so there's still some hope that way. Malachi Flynn, to answer your question, he came out. I think he immediately drew charging foul against James Harden. It was a good start. And then after that, I thought, I don't know, I didn't notice him really do anything on the offensive end. Defensively, I thought he held up all right, gave some good backup minutes to Fred. Didn't hate seeing him out there.
Yeah, I was worried when I saw Malachi Flynn coming in that fourth quarter. Obviously, in theory, season-ish on the line. It's actually on the line in Game 4, so, do or die, whatever you want to call it. But I was worried, and he didn't ruin the game. He had a couple of missteps. He could have had a steal, right? He missed a couple of those loose balls, but didn't blow it by any means. We got a couple super chats coming in from John Lang again. This man's out here balling tonight, saying it's time to build around Scotty and OG. We have to part ways with Pascal. I do agree, build around Scotty and build around OG. I've been an OG stan thick and thin for the past 4 seasons. Like, people were trashing on this man ridiculously this year because of injuries, but we see what he can do in the postseason. His three-point shot, his defense on Harden's elite. But we got a bunch of super chats coming in. Do you want to sound off on that before we get to a couple more super chats?
Keep reading them off, my man.
Zeke coming in with the super chat saying, where does the team go from here? OG and Barnes flash greatness, and we can still rebuild around them with their development in mind. Like, this is, I get where you're coming from, Zeke, because the Raptors are used to having a bunch of old dudes, right, relatively old guys. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry. DeMar DeRozan was getting up there in age when we traded for him. Not really, but, guys in their prime that might be over the hill, might not be. Damari Carroll felt like he was very old. So we're used to when we get knocked out of the playoffs saying, okay, these guys are in their primes. This is their core that we're rocking with. They're not going to get that much better. And I get that Siakam and Fred, I think there were significant improvements from both of those guys this season. So it's not even fair to say that they won't improve. But most of our core is still super young, and I don't think we have to make that many changes this offseason. Get a bench.
Yeah, get a bench. Maybe a center. I'm just
Precious?
thinking about what you're saying. the actual age of the team. And the guys that we didn't even play, Champagny and Banton, maybe guys like that, right, have an opportunity to come up and develop as well. Fred VanVleet is the only guy I'd say is probably close to his ceiling, although he had development, maybe a little bit more respect from around the league because it was his team and he's the primary ball handler, floor general. But usually when guys don't have extra athleticism, right, and their improvement has been on just creating open shots, there's not really much else they can add to their game, is there? Like he's not going to improve all of a sudden as finishing around the lane. He's just, I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
Shots against Philadelphia in the playoffs.
That would be big. That would be big.
That would be just add that, Fred. We know you're awesome against every other team, but like if you can do it against Philadelphia, that would be blessed. But another super chat coming in from Dan Kelly saying, not slandering Pascal because I feel bad due to how great it was to watch him play at the end of the year, but should we now be taking the threat of Scotty Barnes being a larger source of that success to end off the year, or taking the threat? I guess, like, should we sort of be attributing more of that? Let me know if I'm misinterpreting your super chat there, Dan. But should we be giving more attribution to Scotty Barnes and his impact on the team, just given the fact without him, we're getting crushed by the Sixers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he'd be an impact player, and I get why it's concerning, because if Embiid and Harden both had a game tonight where they only scored 9 for 30 combined, right, Philadelphia fans would be up in arms saying, what the heck happened here? And then on top of that, we've already had a little bit of anxiety about our two top guys because they've been pretty inconsistent at times. So I get it, but one game, right? It wasn't an utter collapse or anything. We were still in it. Yeah. Not time to jump off the bandwagon yet, Ben.
Yeah, you can't jump off the bandwagon. You can jump on the Scotty, but like the bandwagon's getting overloaded, but that bandwagon is huge for Scotty Barnes. You can ride that thing all you want, but just because you're on one bandwagon doesn't mean you got to jump off the Pascal one. So I'll just say that. But I get what you're saying. Scotty Barnes is a huge factor to this team. Even though he's like the fifth option, like scoring option, he's our facilitator. He gets us easy buckets and, gets all that stuff rocking. So that's huge there. I live in the year 2022. Not 2019, Mustafa. We're living in 2019, at least for tonight. The ghost of Kawhi remains in my soul, even if Joel Embiid expunged it from his. But, you knew it was going to happen. Like, the basketball gods, they have a way of just doing these things out there. We got a lot of trashing on the squad. A lot of missing Kawhi. Do you miss Kawhi after this game here tonight?
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. We have the next Kawhi and Scotty Barnes, Ben, but my eyeballs are kind of burning out of their sockets here, staring into this light. Let's consider wrapping it down. It's 1:30 in Newfoundland, Ben, after a loss. We're going.
I'm going to, I don't know, I'm a masochist. I'm going to be out here reading a bunch of these Sixers threads and stuff. Read the comment section. Might have to switch this title to Raps in 7. Who knows? Appreciate all the Raps fans. I thought there was going to be more Sixers fans in this chat. I'm not going to lie. But I'm going to keep it real. Riker, I want to go on a little rant. I know we're ending this off here now. But and this is not to trash on Doc Rivers. The guy's been amazing.
You're ranting?
Yeah, I'm ranting. So you
all right, I'm backing away from the light.
Yeah. Doc Rivers has been amazing this series. You can't criticize what this guy's done. Amazing adjustments, amazing stuff. All that is great. Tyrese Maxey is ferocious. He's great. Joel Embiid, hitting game winners. It is what it is. But the Sixers are cursed. They're a franchise that is just cursed. They were the number 1 seed last season, and they got knocked out by the Atlanta Hawks, who, let's be honest, didn't make the playoffs this year. We played them. They had Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid on a team. They were that's like 5 guys on close to max contracts. And we still took them in the playoffs with the most remarkable shot of all time. They are now being coached by a guy in Doc Rivers who has blown multiple 3-1 leads. Their GM is a guy that had superstar after superstar. Was up, Game 6 was up 10-14 against the Golden State Warriors, and then one of their guys goes down and they blow that series too. And James Harden's out there blowing those games against the Spurs, blowing those games against obviously the Golden State Warriors. The stars might be aligning, Ryker, for history to be made. That's why I'm going to bet snap and I'm putting in Raps in 7.
Nice. And Ben, there has been 3 teams come back to tie it 3-3 after trailing 0-3. One is the ABA, the New York Knicks versus the how do you say that word? Rochester?
Rochester?
Yeah. The Rochester Royals. Then the Nuggets versus the Jazz in 94 and the Mavericks versus the Trailblazers in 03. So we would actually join only 4 teams, even tying the series 3-3. So let's start with next game, Ben. We got confidence.
One game at a time. And just to end it off, William Chan saying, Ben said Raps 4th seed, but it was actually 5th. He says Raps in 6, so we know it's Raps in 7, baby. Lock it in! Lock it in, folks. It's going to happen. But, folks, you guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, all of that cool stuff. We got a super chat coming in to end off this podcast as well from Alex Waves saying, could we replay the Embiid shot? 0.9 seconds was way too long. Could we replay it? I'm sure Sixers fans will be replaying it. I guess you mean like challenge it or something. I think they reviewed it to make sure it went off. They won this fair and square. No ref cheese, no nothing we can complain about. Just the basketball gods aligning to give Embiid his revenge. But now the real team's about to win this series, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what ends up going on. But folks, as said, Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. Subscribe to the Raptors Digest. Manifest it. Make it happen. You have any last words on this game, Ryker?
Not tonight, Ben. Not tonight. Cheers.
No words of wisdom?
Nothing. We're going to just stew on this one this evening.
We're stewing. You know what? I'll throw out some milk. We haven't thrown out the milk. Oh, we're also... Actually, you know what? Because you didn't have last words. We got to give a Scotty Barnes award. And tonight, it's going to Scotty Barnes. Just for coming out here and
for receiving so much comments in the comment section about his impact. He's missed. So
he's coming. He's coming, folks. Cheers.
Cheers.